Hey everyone, it is Bren here from Bgeeky blog, and we are recapping for Teen Wolf Thursday's recap of episode 14 of Teen Wolf called The Sword and the Spirit. There's a few scenes that I definitely want to touch base on, and some characters that I want to talk in length about. Starting with Malia Tate, we see that she has teamed up with none other than Theo Rakin, and let's say we all had those red flags up and kind of worried for our Were-Coyote because Theo is a little hard to trust, even though it seems like they're trying to find a way to make Theo almost redeemable, but I'll touch base on that a little bit later. So, going back to the whole teaming up of Theo and Malia, he promises to help her track down and find the desert wolf. In doing so, he brings her back to the Dread Doctor's lair, which for me would be like, why are you bringing me back here? Obviously, you were in on this the whole time. Malia obviously just is on the hunt for her killing her mother. She doesn't really pay attention to the small details, but she's in the lair of the Dread Doctors. So we get to see Malia wear these kind of cool looking steampunk goggle glasses that with retractable claws that dig into your eyeballs to help you regain memory or flashbacks or things that you've seen. I'm still a little confused about this scene because I don't know how she would know where the desert wolf is hiding out in Beacon Hills unless she saw it or it happened. It's still kind of blurry. Once again, there's always going to be a little bit of a plot hole with Teen Wolf, and maybe sometimes we'll have everything pieced together. So Theo and Malia go back to Brayden in hopes to get her on board to go on attack on the desert wolf to eventually and hopefully kill her. Brayden, understandably, with her wit and being a trained assassin, knows that Theo isn't one to be trusted, especially after hearing that he had killed Scott McCall, which Malia is still kind of like okay with it. It's all so weird, this whole little relationship between Malia and Theo. It's like they put everything aside and they just want to focus on her agenda. But we'll learn a little more very, very soon. But Brandon pulls a shotgun out on Theo and basically tells him, I don't trust you, I don't like you, and we're just doing this for Malia. So they team up together to track down the desert wolf and also save Deaton, as Malia has found out that Deaton has been kidnapped by the desert wolf. Another highlight of this episode is that Liam and Scott are finally back in the pack. Scott has forgiven Liam for what has happened and basically just saying Hayden is alive and that's all that matters. But Liam feels that he needs to do something to show Scott that he is here for him, and that's basically laying down his life for Scott. I don't know if that's foreshadowing, but definitely keep that in the back of your mind as we go in towards episodes and getting closer and closer to the finale of season 5. Speaking of teaming up, we do also see the Argents teaming up. So Gerard and Chris Argent are back together on board, searching down for the beast of Javadon, and they come across Scott McCall and Liam. Remember, Gerard hasn't seen Scott since he's become the true alpha. So Scott shows his color of his eyes, and Gerard, I guess, pays him a compliment. I'm going to take it as a compliment and tells him that color suits you. So I think it's cool to kind of see that interaction. Obviously, there's still a lot of tension going on, and it makes me just miss our fallen huntress so much. Unfortunately, as Chris Argent has said before, he didn't get to choose his father kind of chose him. So I love that line. Basically, he loathes Gerard just as much as we loathe him as well. Some other scenes that were interesting, we got to learn a little bit more about Jordan Parrish. We got a little bit of a flashback scene of his time serving in the military, and he kind of is starting to remember how he got his abilities of being a hellhound, kind of like the knowledge. But to Gerard's standards, he wants him to fully be aware of who he is, what he is. So the Argents basically torture him, in a sense. They use like a blowtorch to his face to see how fire resistant he is. And his eyes light up and gets into beast mode almost. And Gerard shows Jordan his hellhound. So it's like hellhound meet Jordan, Jordan meet hellhound. And that's what we got here, is just Jordan kind of seeing himself, a glimpse of who he is and what he is, which is obviously the hellhound. So, and one of my favorite moments of the whole episode that was leaked even before the episode aired as a teaser to this episode was a scene between Stiles and Lydia at Icon House, where he goes to visit her and holds her hand and basically pleads for her to wake up to come back to them, that they need her. And I just love this scene. It was just simple. It was hardly any lines between the both of them, as Lydia is still in a comatose state and he's just talking to her like she's there listening to him. And the music in the scene was amazing. I will link them down below. Perfect sound choice, perfect scene, perfect acting. Overall, one of my favorite scenes so far this whole entire season of season 5. But unfortunately, the scene gets interrupted by Sharon Martin, Lydia Martin's mom, who tells Stiles that he can leave, that it's time for him, that it's enough for him, he needs to go. And before he leaves, he notices a part of Lydia's scalp shaved. And this is, once again, a skip in the timeline. So just remember, this is before the head drilling. Stiles is kind of seeing, they're kind of doing something to her. They're running some tests. He already knows what happened to Grandma Martin. So he kind of already gets the idea that something terrible is going to happen to Lydia and tries to warn Sharon. But Sharon, I don't know what her problem is. I kind of want to know why she's so against Stiles, the pack, and against what her daughter is. So hopefully we'll get some answers, because right now she's just not on my good side. So Stiles leaves because he was basically threatened that if he doesn't leave now, he'll never get to see Lydia again. So he leaves the cell room and he goes out and he bumps into a guard, not by accident, because he was able to take the key card. And as we will see later, that key card is going to come very handy for the pack to save Lydia from House. Speaking of Lydia Martin, we see her abilities kind of grow and she gets a premonition of somebody dying. And by dying, she sees Malia Tate in her vision, her premonition, and kind of confirms with Meredith that if she doesn't do anything, Malia is going to die. I found this part very interesting, and I appreciate the writers creating strong female characters and not having Lydia wake up for Stiles, which everybody kind of was hoping for. But I'm happy that she woke up to save Malia, because as we see in this clip here, is that Malia is shot by Theo and betrayed by him in order to get what looks like luminescent claws, which I think he needs for his plan. I'm curious to why he needed that, which I'm sure he needed it for some reason. But basically, he was working with the Desert Wolf the whole time. That betrayal then put her in a predicament to be killed. And we learn the true reason why the Desert Wolf wants to kill Malia. And the reason why she wants to kill Malia is because she used to be strong and powerful. But when she gave birth to Malia, she was stripped away from those powers. So Malia took away her powers, so now she wants to kill her, which it's kind of an interesting storyline. I don't know if I'm a fan of it, but it definitely solves the answer to why she really wants to kill Malia. Going back to Lydia, she awakens from her comatose state and uses her banshee abilities to try and attempt to break out of House. During that time, she's able to project her scream to be a distraction to save Malia. And unfortunately, Lydia is captured and taken back to House, while Malia escapes and is able to save Deaton and have him reunited with Scott. All right, and the last thing that we saw in this recap, of course, is that the pack is finally together and assembled. And I love that they are all together because basically they need the whole entire pack to break Lydia out of House. So I'm excited for the next episode and seeing how their plan goes to work and if they're able to accomplish their task of saving Lydia. Some things to keep in mind, of course, is that Deucalion is back. He was a villain seen in season 3, and he's going to be back in season 5 as well. We learned that he's going to team up with Theo to take down Scott McCall. So yeah, we'll see how season 5 goes. I mean, it looks like we're getting a lot of bad guys this season and a lot of them to take down. So if you count them right, I believe there's 5 villains this season for Scott's pack to handle. We have Deucalion, Theo, Dread Doctors, the Beast of Jevadon, and the Desert Wolf. So like I said, I write down notes a little bit here and there to kind of see if I can guess who the Beast of Jevadon is. And I kind of have it narrowed down, but I definitely want to hear your thoughts of who could possibly be the Beast of Jevadon. All right, so that's it for season 5's episode 14 recap of Teen Wolf Thursday recap. Make sure that you check in next week as well as we recap episode 15. Leave comments, questions, follow, whatever you like to do. And thank you for watching a Bgeeky blog recap.